Today we will look at the Babylonian Talmud and the everyday Talmud. We will do a review by reading it ourselves and come to our own conclusions of it, because there are many naysayers out there that say it's an accursed book, and the reason why we have certain evil organized religions stemming from it, and it'll bring on the Antichrist and all this other stuff. So we're going to read it, get to understand it better, get to know it. And this is the new edition of the Babylonian Talmud. Original text edited, corrected, formulated and translated into English by Michael L. Rodkinson. Section Jurisprudence, Damages, tracts about fathers of the synagogue with both of R. Nathan, Derek Eretz, Rabba and Zutra. Revised by the Reverend Mr. Godfrey Shajar Taub Ben House, Rabbi Kong Beth Elohim, Brooklyn. It must be the Congregation of Beth Elohim, Brooklyn. Volume 1-9. Explanatory remarks. In this translation, these authors have adopted these principles. 1. Tenan of the original, they have learned in the Mishnah. Tania, they have learned in a Baraitha. Itima, it was taught. 2. Questions are indicated by the interrogation point and are immediately followed by the answers without being so marked. 3. When in the original there occur two statements separated by the phrase Lishna Akrina or Walbaith Aima or Ikha de Amri, literally otherwise interpreted, they translate only the second. 4. As the pages of the original are indicated in the new Hebrew edition, it is not deemed necessary to mark them in the English edition, this being only a translation from the latter. 5. Words or passages enclosed in round parentheses denote the explanation rendered by Rashi, it's a older respected rabbi, to the foregoing sentence or word. Square parentheses contain commentaries by authorities of the last period of construction of the Gemara. And this is dedicated to His Excellency, the well-known philanthropist who warmly espouses the cause of Judaism and its literature, Baron Edmund de Rothschild, probably of the feared Rothschilds, the bankers, the powers, etc. that these conspiracy theorists go on about. This volume is most respectfully inscribed by the editor and translator Michael L. Rodkinson, New York, Purim 5660, March 15th, 1900. Introduction to section Jurisprudence. With the present volume we begin the section Damages, also called Jurisprudence, from the occurrence of discussions on criminal law. This section forms the fourth in the old edition and comprises the following treatises: First Gate, Middle Gate, Last Gate, Sanhedrin, Stripes, Oaths, Testimonies, Idolatry, Fathers or Ethics of the Fathers of the Synagogue, and Decisions. It just came to mind, to our thought, that probably with Jews, the Jewish religion, you'd probably have to learn more than just reading this book. There'd be lots and lots and lots of other things you'd probably have to learn, scrolls you'd have to read, and lectures, etc. that you'd have to attend for years and years to fully understand it. It may not be as easy to read it with a Western mindset and understand it fully. Okay, again, with the present volume we begin the section Damages, also called Jurisprudence, from the occurrence of discussions on criminal law. This section forms the fourth in the old edition and comprises the following treatises: First Gate, Middle Gate, Last Gate, Sanhedrin, Stripes, Oaths, Fathers of the synagogue, or testimonies, idolatry, fathers or ethics of the fathers of the synagogue, and decisions. Notwithstanding the fact that in the last old edition of the Talmud, fathers stands next to the last tract, we have placed it at the head of the section, or they have placed it at the head of the section, relying upon the decision of Sharira Gaon in his letter, Goldberg edition, May 1872, page 14, declaring that it is perfectly permissible to change the order of sequence of tracts in the several sections. Therefore, because the treatise entitled Fathers deals entirely with the ethics of life, these writers just deemed it best to give it precedence over the other treatises. Just as in the Pentateuch, they found the Ten Commandments the basis of all ethical religion, heading the subsequent detailed laws and ordinances, so it seems but fit that the section damages should be headed by the tract setting forth the main ethical principles and be continued by the detailed discussions. And they are further borne out by the Talmud itself, which reads, First Gate, Chapter 3, Mishnah 3, one who wishes to be pious should observe the laws of damages. Rab Hina said he should observe the teachings of the fathers. Rab Hina's statement should, in our opinion, not be taken literally, but as indicative of the opinion that the decisions contained both in fathers and in damages generally are equivalent. Fathers is one of the few treatises which consist of Mishnah only, for example, has no supplementary Gemara either in the Babylonian or the Palestinian Talmud, although interspersed throughout the contents of the entire Talmud may be found amplifications or comments on some of the sentences of the fathers. There is, however, a Tosafta entitled Fathers of Rabbi Nathan, which discusses most sentences of the original fathers separately. In fact, begins the discussion of each sentence with the interrogation, how so? Forming, therefore, a valuable addition to the much valued literature of the fathers. These writers have considered it their duty to incorporate it in their edition, and they have therefore inserted the said Tosefta in the place where in other tracts they have placed the Gemara. Owing to the fact that the Tosefta named above bears the name of Rabbi Nathan of Babylon, one of the most distinguished masters of his generation, but at the same time contains ethics similar to those of the Mishnah, as well as lectures and discussions which could not have been compiled by their author and are evidently contributions from scholars of a later period. The historians of modern times, from Zuns in his Gotten Dienstlicher Vorträge to Brill in his Jahrbucher and Weiss in his Dor Vedoshof, engage in elaborate speculation as to who was the compiler of the Fathers of our Nathan and at what time it was compiled. The complicated nature of the Tosefta in question brought to the front a number of commentators and text revisers. And finally, Solomon Tausik and Solomon Schechter made a search of manuscripts and published new editions of the Tosefta with additions from the material found in the manuscripts. The latter, in fact, searched so thoroughly that he found an entirely different version of the Tosefta and then published in his second edition two separate texts, calling them first text and second text respectively, with his own corrections, notes and a long introduction. Vienna, 1887. True to the writer's methods of translating the Talmud, they had, however, ignored the new versions of Fathers of Rabbi Nathan and had merely adapted the old version which forms part of the Talmud, simply adhering to the corrections made by Elias Vilna and the commentaries of Joshua Falk and others contained in the Great Vilna 1890 edition of the Talmud. Further, in accordance with their want, they have omitted such of the passages as have already appeared in the preceding tracts of their edition, merely indicating the places where they can be found. Wherever necessary, of course, they've added footnotes, remarks, etc. Their reasons for not making use of the new versions of the Tosefta in question are as follows. In a previous article touching upon the subject, which appeared in their publication, Hakol, they had pointed out that they could not give preference to recently discovered manuscripts, and probably at the time of them writing this, putting this together, over those used by the compilers of the Talmud, and for a reason that is perfectly obvious, is if those manuscripts were in existence during the construction period of the Talmud, the compilers, who sifted every manuscript with the utmost care, undoubtedly rejected them as valueless. If, on the other hand, they were at the time not in existence, but were written at a later period, they certainly cannot be used as a medium for correcting the antedating manuscripts. As for Schechter's revised and corrected texts, these writers could not accept them for the reasons that he presumes to remark anent Elias Vilna's corrections. I do not favour them, or they are unnecessary. After careful investigation, these writers had, however, found that almost all the corrections made by Elias Vilna and adopted by them were founded directly on Talmudical and Midrashic passages scattered throughout the Talmud, a fact the learned Dr. Schechter no doubt overlooked. On the other hand, these writers found that the commentaries published in the above-mentioned Vilna edition and credited to Joshua Falk, Chaim Joseph David Azulay, and Baruch Frankel Theomim are referred directly to passages of the Talmud in these several treatises. Therefore, these writers had used the well-known authorities in their translation, eliminating merely their lengthy discussions and adductions of proof. As to the origin of the sayings of the fathers of Rabbi Nathan, the period during which they were compiled, and other historical events attending their conception, they refrained from rendering their opinion, even though it had become customary to do this in an introduction, leaving those matters to the philologists and historians in whose province such discussions properly fall. The writer's sole reason for the translation is that the said sayings have never before been rendered into any modern language, and without them their work would not be complete. The Fathers of Rabbi Nathan contains in the original 41 chapters, as these writers render them, however, in the form of a Gemara to the Mishnah of Fathers. They have not numbered the chapters, but merely indicated at the foot of the page to which chapters each paragraph belongs. Regarding the translation of Fathers, for example, the original Mishnah in the first 5 chapters, these writers, these compilers, had found that the translation of C. Taylor, Cambridge, 1877, was entirely too literal and almost incomprehensible without footnotes and commentaries. It was really hard to read and understand, or to make sense of without the footnotes and commentaries. On the other hand, the partial translation contained in the Home Prayer Book, compiled in the main by Dr. G. Gotthuel and Dr. F. D. Soler Mendes, is lucid and in accord with the original text. These writers had therefore made use of the latter rendition with slight change, or these compilers. The part remaining untranslated in the prayer book they have adapted from C. Taylor's version, rendering it somewhat more comprehensively. In the rendition of the 6th chapter, which does not really form part of the Mishnah, but is added by the sages in Mishnaic language, these have followed Taylor, making numerous notes and corrections in order to make it intelligible to the lay reader, or everyday reader. They have not deemed it necessary to add a commentary to the Fathers as they did to tracts Shekalim and Ebel Rabathi, because the forefathers had been translated into all modern languages, or has been translated into all modern languages, and because there is already considerable literature concerning the ethics of Judaism, especially the recent publication that was done by Professor D. M. Lazarus, entitled Ethik des Judentums, as admirable work, issued at Leipzig, 1899, and giving a masterly exposition of the philosophical tendencies of fathers. These writers, or these authors, have also devoted a special chapter to the subject in their forthcoming history of the Talmud. They have also thought it well to give in this volume, which treats exclusively of the ethics of Judaism, the 2 tracts Derek Eretz, Rabbah and Zuta, which contain the essential rules of conduct of life, as construed by Dr. Miozina, or Worldly Affairs, as named by these writers or authors, which latter is the prevailing interpretation among Hebrew readers. As to the origin of these two tracts, elaborate discussions may be found in Zuhn's Gottesdienstliche, not too sure on the last word, Gottesdienstliche Vorträge, paragraph 110-112, as well as in der Talmud, Trakt direkt Eres, Sutta Christik Bearbeitet, etc., etc., Berlin, 1885, by Abraham Torogi. For Torogi's reasons for not translating Derek Eretz Rabbah, see his work, nevertheless, inasmuch as Derek Eretz Rabbah has never been translated into any language, and of Derek Eretz Zuta, while there is a critical translation into German, there is none in English. In order to make this volume, which treats of the ethics of Judaism, complete, these writers or authors, have considered it expedient to translate into English both tracts almost literally, although they are not counted among the 37 treatises proper of the Babylonian Talmud, but only among the minor treatises added to them. These authors did not, however, deem it necessary to add any commentary, for the reason that the sayings are very plain and lucid and can easily be understood even by those who are not students of the Talmud. Because of the similarity in language and style of these two treatises, and of the so-called Mishnah of the 6th chapter of Abbath, they appear in the same large type as the Mishnah. Following this treatise will be published the other tracts of this section in the regular sequence of the old edition. The editor and translator, New York, March 1900. Synopsis of subjects of Tract Abbath, Fathers of the Synagogue. Several requests had been received by the translator that an index should be made to the volumes of the Talmud, as is customary with all modern works. It would be an utter impossibility to give a complete index of everything contained in the Talmud. Were it like other scientific works which treat each subject separately, this could easily be done, but with the Talmud it is different. On one page, many different subjects may be discussed, and again a single subject may occupy several pages. The Talmud, therefore, has never had an index. After careful examination of the volumes, page by page, it has been decided to make a synopsis. For example, to give briefly the heads of the discussions and conversations upon each Mishnah, indicating the page where the Mishnah is to be found, and the Gemara of each, which serves as a commentary. By this, the reader should be able to refer to what he desires to know. A synopsis is therefore given of every Mishnah which discusses a single subject, with its accompanying Gemara in this volume, the Tosefta. But when several short Mishnahs cover the same subject, a single synopsis is given of the whole, including the Gemara of each one. And where a chapter is short, a synopsis of the whole chapter is made, without dividing it into Mishnahs. This is the best that can be done, and it is hoped that readers will find it satisfactory. Chapter 1, Mishnah A. The Great Assembly originated 3 maxims. Be deliberate in judgment. How so? The books of Proverbs, Song of Songs, and Ecclesiastes were hidden. How was Adam created? Why was Adam created on the last hour of the 6th day? Or, if you know about the original Tab Asheret, square script, Lishana Atika Sapreya, sacred scribal language of God, the old tongue of God that he spoke to Adam and Eve. In the Garden of Eden, the word is Iyuma, which means immeasurable period, unfathomable period, eon, age, era, or day with capital D. But this possibly being the Hebrew, or some form of Jewish language, may be using the word Yom for day, as in day of the week. Therefore, Hence they put the sixth day. On the same day on which he was formed, on the very same day his countenance was created. According to others, he's got a sticker over that, or something. It's ERATE. Probably be separate. We're not too sure what that actually says. Somebody's put a sticker over it and then uploaded it. Be separate in judgment means not to have an irascible manner, or maybe it's be moderate. Could be moderate in judgment, which means not to have an irascible manner. Erect safeguards for the law, the safeguard of the Lord, of Adam the first, the legend about Eve and the serpent, etc. The 10 curses with which Eve was cursed at that time. Shall I and my cattle eat out of the same trough? The tradition about the ox of Adam, the steer of Noah, and the ram sacrificed by Abraham. 1-11. Yeah, it looks like somebody's deliberately put a piece of sticky tape or band-aid or something on there so you can't know what that word is for some reason. Don't know why. So we're guessing it's be moderate in judgment. Yeah, it looks like it. We're not too sure. Maybe there's another version that'll verify that for us. Continuation of chapter 2 of Tosefta. It's got all these different continuations of chapters in the Mishnah, etc. There's a lot of explanation there. What it's all about. What it contains. Okay, there's more here. I'm not going to go through all of that. You can do it in your own time if you get hold of this particular copy of the Babylonian Talmud. Synopsis of subjects of tract or tract, Derek, Eretz, Rabbah and Zuta. Rabbah chapter 2. Of the Sadducees, common informers, the wicked, the hypocrites, the heretics, the scriptures says, etc. Of the terrifying, the overbearing, the haughty, the barefaced, and of those who develop only their muscular strength, the scriptures says, etc. Of evil thinkers, storytellers, talebearers, smooth-tongued persons, the scriptures says, etc. Who assaults his neighbour in private and who insults him in public, etc. Who forestals fruit, raises the prices, diminishes the measure, accepts payment in large-sized shekels only, and who lives on usury. The following leaves no inheritance in their children, etc. The conceited, the slanderers, and those who indulge in obscene language, who are wise in their own eyes, etc. Who lets his young son marry an older woman, and who marries off his daughter to an old man, and who bestows favours upon those who are unworthy, etc. And so forth and so forth. Yeah. That's probably what it contains in that chapter or that tract. Yeah, you need some more detailing the chapters. Zuta chapters 1-4, 5-9, the chapter on peace. Although evil decrees are enacted one after another against Israel, still they endure forever. Probably talking about Israel goes on forever. Or maybe it's talking about, yeah, it looks like it's talking about Israel. They grin their teeth and bear it, and they endure forever. Seek peace at the place where you are, and if you do not find it, seek it in other places. All manner of lying is prohibited or unallowed, except it be to make peace between one and his neighbour. Great is peace, and that the covenant of the priests, with this agreement, this promise made of the priest was made with peace. When the Messiah shall come to Israel, he will begin with peace. So it means it's about a Messiah, but it's probably a different Messiah that they're looking at, not Jesus the Christ, or Jesus of Nazareth, maybe. Great is peace, in that all the benedictions and prayers are concluded with peace. He who loves peace runs after peace, offers peace, and answers peace. The Holy One, etc. 31-34.